an album that I think we knew was coming, and we were excited to listen to because Cordae is back with From Bird's Eye View. Um, just out of curiosity, what was your hype for this? Were you anticipating it? Were you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I was definitely looking forward to it. I wasn't as hyped as I think I previously was. It had been some time since we've gotten this. The debut album was back in summer 19, and then we got that like holdover 4-pack EP April 2021. That was already kind of long ago, and I was just exasperatedly waiting for that second album when the EP came out. So it's been a lot of waiting, but I haven't been too in love with any of his loose singles or album singles that predated this album. So it was kind of a wait and see thing for me. Stuff like The Parables and Gifted, which both have remixes on this album. Those songs are pretty old at this point, the original versions. Didn't do too much for me. I didn't think the EP was too special either. So definitely still in on the Corday experience, and the talent is evident. But yeah, it was definitely more of a wait and see album for me, which I wouldn't have expected to feel coming off of The Lost Boy, because I still think that album really goes.
Yeah, Lost Boy, we gave I think a really warm reception to. Check that out, youtube.com/nostalgia pod. Um, After listening to From a Bird's Eye View, I left feeling like this was a really solid second album. I think there's a lot to like. I think there's some I think some of the production on this sounds really, really great. I think he raps really technically at points. I think not all of it totally works for me, but I really enjoyed listening to From a Bird's Eye View. What was your general reception after first listen?
Yeah, I think it's just okay. Honestly, I've found some of it just a little dull, a little boring, which is not what I wanted to hear. I don't think there's a broke as fuck or a lost and found or a RNP on this. Some songs that I still really adore from the Lost Boy. I just don't think the tracks compare in the same way. And it's really funny to juxtapose this record with his LA Leakers freestyle he just did in promotion of this album, because on that you hear Corday rapping his ass off, going off, kicking the door. Fucking sounds great. But he doesn't rap too fucking hard on this, to be honest, this second album. And there's some moments of singing that it's okay. It's not terrible, but it's just not really what I'm looking for. Because I know how technically proficient he is, and he just has an energy too. He's not like a boring technical rapper by any means. And I just didn't think there's enough songs here to that I wanted to like spin again, which is kind of frustrating. He Corday kind of feels like he's artistically stuck in the mud a little bit to me. And
Yeah.
not that he's still, he's at a high level already, so that's not the worst thing in the world. But I would like him to make some kind of progression, because this just felt lesser to me than the first album.
Yeah, I don't think it had the highs of the first album. I think, like you said, he has a really high level of output in terms of every song I think on here is competently made. I think it all sounds pretty good. I think it flows together fairly well, even. Um, but I don't think a lot of these have the replayability that you're talking about. So I agree with you on that. I did enjoy, just quite a few of like the tracks early on. Like I thought Jean Michel, even though necessarily like the I don't know if like the lyrics I find super memorable, but I think just like the overall sound of the album of that track, and I think that the first couple, I really like Jean Michel, Super, which has been a single.
Mm.
I really liked, and then not Mama's Hood, but sorry, I guess a little later in the album, but C Carter, I thought was really good, like a old school like growing up hip hop, like coming up what I dreamed of type song, which I don't know. That one was probably the one I went back to most. Did you find any of those tracks as potential standouts?
Yeah, I think Super is pretty familiar as one of those like technical bars banger Cordae songs. That song's a few months old at this point. Pretty
Mhm.
solid. I like Mama's Hood as well. I think that's him at his best lyrically. And yeah, I think for me, it just kind of faded away for me. Like the album ending on Parables remix and Gifted remix. I mean, these songs aren't really good enough to
Oh.
me to justify remixes in the first place. And in general, I didn't really care for Corey singing on Chronicles. I thought the Dirk feature was pretty good,
Oh
but
yeah.
don't really love the song. Champagne Glasses, I just didn't think Corday was super ear catching on that, kind of wasting a Gibbs feature. So I think
Feels just more like a Gibbs song in general.
totally. And I guess for me, the hook with Today featuring Gunna, I liked. The
Hmm.
new Gunna album we intentionally did not review, but I thought Gunna fit that song pretty well. But yeah, I mean, I just this is not like the next great Corday album. It's just and to me it's something more disappointing because he took his time to put this out, and it just felt like he kind of spun his wheels and had some diminishing returns, which kind of makes it feel even worse. If he had put this out like barely a year after Lost Boy, I wouldn't feel nearly the same, I don't think. But it's
Yeah.
been a few years at this point, and Lost Boy had 2 Grammy nominations and stuff. I just want a little bit more at this point.
It's interesting to think about kind of like the lane he's in, right? Because I think after Lost Boy, there was some speculation like, is he going to be in that like J. Cole, Kendrick lane where, really top tier rapping, probably going to have a few classic albums. And like you said, he's kind of been stuck in the mud creatively, maybe not leveling up the way that we were hoping. He's still pretty young, I think, right? He's like early
Yeah, he's,
20s, I think.
yeah, he's young.
So there's still a lot of time for him to still have that output, but I
24.
don't know. I don't know if I necessarily see him in that Kendrick mold. Maybe more in like the J. Cole, like not gonna ever be like the most popular rapper, but put out just stuff that's really quality. Like a song like Coach Carter actually reminds me a bit of like a J. Cole track, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Cole's definitely the best comp out of like the big three. But I mean, if he even sniffs Cole's popularity, he'd have a
Hell of
very
a career.
successful career. So it's a long
Yeah, for
way,
sure.
of course. But and he obviously very successful in life. He likes to talk about like his business pursuits and how he treats his money smartly. And of course, he's in a high profile relationship for some time now. But yeah,
He made 7 million last year. No performances or whatever that line was. No album out.
yeah, didn't have to do a single fucking show. I think
Yep,
is how he
that's what
put
it
it.
was.
Yeah, you know, just don't try and be Drake, man. We don't need no singing.
Yeah.
It's not your thing.
Everybody wants to sing now, though.
I
That's the
know.
thing.
But and that's what I think this was so tantalizing is the LA Fleekers freestyle. It's like, it's right there. I know he's got this. He just did it. But like
Yeah.
you just didn't make any songs that sound like this.
I mean, the
Besides
thing
like
is that
Super.
the album isn't bad, and that's the funny thing is I think it's just like what we hoped we get and what we got is just not
Yeah.
totally meet our expectations, but still I think a quality album, and we'll be putting out probably one of those tracks that we mentioned onto our Nostalgia Best of 2022.